In this section, we're going to walk through the process of setting up an iOS emulator on a macOS machine. And so if you've already gone through the Android setup for macOS and you don't want to set up iOS, totally fine. Continue on to the application section that's a couple of videos ahead. Otherwise, stick around and we'll start setting up the iOS emulator on macOS. All right, let's get to it. So the first thing we need to do is install Xcode, which is what we're going to use to generate the emulator that we're going to use. I'll first begin by opening up the App Store program. Inside of the App Store, I'm going to find the search bar up here at the top right-hand side, and I'll search for Xcode. Now, Xcode is probably going to be the first option you see on here, and you'll see a green button right underneath it that says Git. So you'll want to go ahead and click that and install Xcode. If you see an update button, like what I have right here, then I highly encourage you to update Xcode as well. Now, the Xcode installation process takes a pretty good amount of time, so start up that download, and we'll stop right here and continue in the next section when your download is complete. In the last section, we installed Xcode onto our local machine. I'm now going to close out of my App Store, and I'm going to open up Xcode by hitting Command Space, and I can just type in Xcode like so. The first time we run Xcode, we're going to get a little pop-up that asks if we want to install some additional components, and we definitely do. So I'm going to click on the Install button right here. I then get prompted for my password, which I'll enter, and then it'll go through that installation process. Now, doing this install takes a minute or two, so let's take another quick pause right here, and we'll continue in the next section. In the last section, we did a little bit more configuration of Xcode by starting it up and installing a couple more dependencies. I'm now at this welcome screen right here, and I'm going to go up to Xcode at the top. I'll then find Open Developer Tools, and I'll click on Simulator right here. So this is going to start up my local iOS simulator, and in just a second or two, I'll see the window appear. There we go. So that's the device that our application is going to run inside of. I can now go back over to the Xcode window back over here, and I can quit out of Xcode if I want to. Now it's going to take just a second for the iOS simulator to start up here, so I'm going to take another short break. Oh, never mind, we're good to go. So now to actually start up our application inside the simulator, I'm going to open up my terminal window right here. I'm going to navigate to the Pix directory. Remember, that's the folder of the project that we just generated by using the Flutter command line tools. And then inside there, I'm going to run the command flutter devices, like so. When I run that command, it'll print out all the different devices that Flutter thinks is currently running on my local machine. And so right here, you can see that it thinks that I'm running an iPhone X simulator, which I definitely am. So now to start up my application on there, I'll execute flutter run, again, while inside of my Pix project directory. So this is going to start up a compilation process that's going to take that generated project that we just created and deploy it to this local Xcode simulator. Now the startup process takes just a moment or two, so we will take a break this time. We'll come back to the next section and just make sure that everything's started up as we expect. In the last section, we executed the flutter run command while inside of our Pix project directory. Flutter did a little bit of compilation and then eventually deployed our starter application right here to the mobile device. So we now see the default application here on the screen. And that's pretty much it. We're good to go. So let's take a pause right here and continue in the next section.